Hey out there, I'm making my next video here for waiver-wire for week 10, I believe. And I just got to keep reiterating that it's really helping me to do this research. I hope it helps a few people out there. And I would suggest to people, if you're struggling for waiver-wire, try to do your research on Saturdays and Sundays before the next week starts. Don't wait and do your research the day of waivers, because you're going to struggle to get the guys you want. Other guys will be early on adding guys and you'll regret waiting. And a few of my guys last week did really well. Now, looking at daily face-off here, which is the site I use and I love for the weekly schedule because it's very smoothly done. You've got a few teams with 2 games, a lot of teams with 4 games actually this week. So it's going to be you're going to have to pretty much, unless they're really keepable, get rid of those 2-game guys. So Arizona, there you can see, who are not a great team to have fantasy players on anyway. So you're probably going to have some questionable guys if you have anybody on their rosters that you might want to get rid of this week. Calgary, Carolina, 4 games. Colorado, 4 games. Dallas, 4 games. Florida, 4 games. Minnesota, 4 games. Montreal, 2 games. So there's another team. And look at that, they don't play the first 3 days of the week, so they're really useless at the beginning of the week. I have a guy like Jeff Petrie who I like, but I'm tempted to drop him this week just because he's only got those 2 games and misses the whole early week. You could even potentially, if you have Montreal players, you could potentially drop them for those first 3 games, get a team that plays 2 in that period, and then pick them back up on on that game they play on the 14th. Okay, so back to Montreal, we have Minnesota. Sorry, not Minnesota. The Islanders, 4 games. Rangers, 4 games. San Jose, 4 games. St. Louis, 4 games. No, San Jose, sorry, 2 games. Another team to avoid. They do have a 2-game back-to-back there in the middle of the week. So again, just like Montreal, you could drop them and get them back. A guy like Thomas Hertl, this is a guy I like, but maybe this week you want to get rid of him and then get him back when he plays Calgary and Vancouver 2 in a row. You have St. Louis 4, Vancouver 4, Washington 4, Winnipeg 4. So I'm going to actually look at my rosters now and look at the guys that I'm targeting this week. I got a bit of a cold, if you can't tell from my voice. So looking in my most shallow of leagues, the guys that I had on waivers that I thought were interesting. And now these guys are not going to be available in every league at all. Absolutely not. This is more for the shallow players. But I feel like in hockey especially, there's a lot of people who do play shallow leagues who don't play super deep. Maybe I got that wrong, but that's my feeling. I have some guys here. So Adam Henrique is a guy that is only 28% owned, which is crazy. And he's been a good hockey player. 2 years ago, you go back, he was really good. And now in Anaheim, he's playing lights out since the trade. So I believe, there we go, you can see he's got a point in his last 5 games, all since the trade. He's playing solid minutes. He's got a great role on that team. Not a lot of power play points, but a lot of shots on goal. Winning face-offs. Just kind of gone back to the old Adam Henrique. He seems like he's a player that if you put him in a good system, he's a really good hockey player. So I think he's absolutely a must-add, pretty much across the board. I believe I added him in this league. Yes, I did. And this is my most shallow league, so I still added him even in a shallow format. Going down the list, Charlie Coyle, who's been heating up big time for Minnesota. Also only 25% owned. You can see there he's moved up to the second line, playing with Koivu and Zucker. And Zucker has been a revelation this year, how good he's been. And you look at Coyle, he's 6-game point streak right now. Minnesota have 4 games. He's an add him while he's hot. And look, he 56 points last year. That's good, very good. And 101 hits, wins some faceoffs. He's just a good fantasy player. Does a little bit of everything. I can't believe he's 24% owned as well. That's ridiculous. So Charlie Coyle's a must-add, I say. Going down the list here, I added Tom Wilson, who has been getting first-line minutes with Ovechkin and with Backstrom, and is making absolute it worth it to fantasy unders. In a 3-game span here, he's got 7 points. And the other thing with Tom Wilson to remember, if you're in a bangers and mash where you have hits or if you have penalty minutes, he's super valuable because he fights, he's a protector, and he gets hits, like massive amounts of hits. So he's already valuable in those leagues. And now that he's getting points, he's gone up a huge amount of value, and I've added him in this league as well. So I say absolutely Wilson's an ad while he's up on that line. Keep an eye on him if you're not in a bangers and mash league. If he gets dropped off that line, his value goes right down to nothing. But he's just a guy you got to keep an eye on, and while he's on a good line, you play him. Another one on the list here that I have is Markstrom, who a lot of people are targeting right now because goalies are, it's always a struggle. So a lot of leagues do 2 goalies. He's playing well right now, although he lost on the 7th there and had a pretty average game. I don't like him, though. Like, I'm a Vancouver Canuck fan. He's still not, that team is not, I shouldn't even just say him. The team is playing well. So his numbers look pretty good, but I don't really honestly believe in this team this year. I think they're much more a 500 team at best. And if they're a 500 team at best, that means they're going to have a bad stretch here coming up. And even if Markstrom, like, he'll have his shutouts, he'll have his good games, he's going to have blow-up games too. And personally, I'm not the type who wants goalies who can blow up my stats so consistently. He has been good this year. If you're in a keeper league, he's worth trying, seeing if he steals that job and just holds that job the rest of the year. Maybe Vancouver is above 500. Maybe they get better next year, and as a keeper, he might have value, but I don't really see this year him having too much value. You're going to add him thinking he's now their guy, and he's not going to be their guy. He's going to have a blow-up game. He's going to kill your roster that week, and you're going to drop him. So I just don't like him, really. Camillary's continue to be good. I don't like him, really. He's only 3% owned, though. And he's just getting points now that he's gotten a better role in Edmonton. I don't trust him long-term whatsoever. He's playing today right now. I think Edmonton are turning it around a bit. I do kind of believe in Edmonton making a turnaround here. So it's not a bad idea to buy in on Edmonton players. I'm just not sure Camilleri is the guy I would buy into. But while he's hot, especially in a deeper format, 3% owned, take a flyer on him. He's not going to be good long term. He's more just for now. Another guy I've been monitoring pretty closely is Fiala. I traded for him in a few of my leagues. He's been just phenomenal since Kyle Turris got traded to this team. So I don't really see why he's not more than 12% owned. He's a high pedigree player, 10th pick overall, super high engine motor, can skate as fast as anyone. And has talent, absolutely has talent. I believe he's, the rest of the year, a pacing of more 45, 50 points is what I would expect from him. He's already got 19 points. He's already over his career mark. So I absolutely am in on Fiala. I think he gets undervalued. I think people just, I don't know why, but the guy that is picked number 10 and then starts producing when he gets a really good line mate like Turris seems to me like a no-brainer. So If he's available, I think the rest of the year you can expect him to get maybe 35, 40 more points. So why not? And Nashville's a great team to have players on. It's not you're going to get the secondary stats like plus minus and things like that as well. So I absolutely like Fiala. I've been dropping Shea Theodore after last week saying to Adam, long term, he's going to be good. He's not there right now, though. So, sadly, I thought I had him at the right moment, but he's been scratched the last game. You probably have to drop him in most formats, but he's absolutely a guy you just got to keep monitoring. A lot of people are giving Brossoit some serious grief, especially Edmonton fans. A lot of people just want him off the team. They want them to trade for a goalie. They want them to play Nick Ellis. Personally, I see Brossoit as a fantasy ad this week. He's going to be fine. He has been poor this year, admittedly, but trends correct themselves, and he's not as bad as he's shown. He's more of an average goalie in the NHL, which is a 9-15 save percentage or so, and he's not been that. I expect going forward for him to normalize and probably have a couple really good games. And while Talbot's out, I would add Brossoit. Edmonton's going to go on a little run here where they're going to play better. I guarantee it. So buy in on that run. Get in early. Everybody is off of Brossoit. If you have I would prefer Brossoit to Markstrom. And the ownership is totally different. So it's 12% here for Brossoit and about 45, I think, for Markstrom. So I would add Brossoit, and if you need a goalie this week, a lot like I was saying Tristan Jarry, although Tristan Jarry has been a bit of a failure. Excuse me. Dubois continues to dominate. If you haven't added him yet, add him. There's no question. He's super valuable. So he's absolutely at 16% owned. I don't get it. I mean, his ownership's going up, 12% now, but he's got great minutes recently. And if you're getting a forward that's getting close to 20 minutes at that age, something good's going on. He's getting face-offs. He's getting hits. He's just a super valuable fantasy player right now. He's like absolutely a keeper for me now. And also, I just think he's good in general. I think he's good this year. Tristan Jarry, I was all over him, but he's choked away. So if you listened to me last week, you're going to regret it. If you got him the first week, you would have been super happy. And now it looks like he's choked a bit of his opportunity. They might start Des Smith, who's their other guy, their other backup. I don't love either one of them now. I don't know. I guess I still believe in Tristan Jarry. I wouldn't just take away his opportunity if I were Pittsburgh. Des Smith is definitely not their future. He's 26. He's career minor leaguer. So I would personally put Jarry right back in and let him see if he can correct himself, because he was playing great at the beginning. I would monitor Jarry. I mean, any goalie, just like I just said with Brossoit and Edmonton. I like Edmonton going forward. I like Pittsburgh going forward. So I still think he's worth an ad. I still think he's worth at least monitoring. I wouldn't even drop him, I don't think. But a lot of people are going to drop him, and I see why. I can understand that totally. I'll just look briefly here. I got to get off a little earlier this time, I think, because I've got a bit of a cough. Radko Gudas is coming off of suspension. If you're in a hits league and a penalty minutes league, I still don't think you add him right away, but I think you monitor how he plays when he comes back. I mean, the other thing that is has not been mentioned about his poor year this year is he wasn't scoring points either. When a bunch of his value comes from him getting some points as a fighter, as a hitter, as a blocker. So he's pretty valueless unless he gets some points. So maybe he comes back and he plays better. I added Matt Niskanen, who's 41%. He got dropped in this league. Washington plays 4 games this week. I like Niskanen. He's been playing pretty consistent. I like anytime I'm getting a point every game or 2 from a defenseman, I'm pretty happy. That's going to add up to 40 points at the end of the year and solid. He also puts up solid side stats with a lot of hits, a lot of shots on goal, and a lot of blocks. He's got a good role in Washington. So I like him, and I don't think anybody should be dropping him, that's for sure. Let me see who else here. Well, Michael Grabner just keeps getting it done, and he just keeps scoring goals. He's on a pace for 40 goals this year, which he won't keep up, but he'll get 35, he'll get 30, and there's a lot of leagues out there that value goals more than assists, which probably they should. So if you're in a league that values goal scoring more, you should be adding Grabner. It's no fluke that he's scoring these goals. He's done it his whole career. You look at last year, 27 goals, 13 assists, 40 points. 40 points doesn't look great, but 27 goals is very rare in the NHL. There's not a lot of guys who do that. So he's on that pace this year, maybe even better this year. Maybe about the same for points because he's only got the 2 assists, which is pretty hard to believe. So he'll probably get a few more assists going forward, but he'll get his 30 goals, I would say, easy. And I know I'm in a league where goals are worth 2 and assists are worth 1. So he's more valuable in that kind of league, and I would absolutely want to add him. Looking down here, Burakovsky's being added all over the place. And right there it says he played well in his return. Doesn't show up on paper, him playing well. 1 shot on goal, 1 face-off win, 1 hit, nothing else across the board in 14 minutes. That doesn't look good for fantasy. And I kind of am starting to believe that Burakovsky's just not a good fantasy player. He doesn't do anything else inside stats. He's below average in a lot of categories. I just don't believe in Burakovsky. So he's gonna have to show me something before I buy in. I said last week add Sam Bennett, and boom, he's been a beast. He actually got, I think, 3rd star of the week, and he's only 6% owned, so he also plays 4 games this week. While he's hot, get him in your roster. I didn't love him long term, but you know what? I'm liking him more now. He had 8-shot game, 4-shot games. He's shooting the puck. He's playing like a different player. So I think you do definitely this week add Bennett because he's got the 4 games. We'll see going forward. He's another guy to monitor, but he's worth adding in most formats, I would say. Here's an odd one. He was dropped in one of my in a deeper league, actually, Mata. Now, he's not been great, admittedly, but he's got 13 points so far this year. And if you go back 2 years ago, he was expected to have a bit of a breakout last year. He totally was maybe one of the worst picks in fantasy last year because he went a lot earlier and he only got 7 points. But I think he's had a turnaround year this year. And I actually predict this week, I expect some points, some solid points coming forward. And he's got 21 minutes his last game. He's just an off-the-cuff prediction for me, kind of a feeling I'm going on. I think Mata is going to heat up. And I think you can expect some nicer stats from Ole Mata. I wouldn't be dropping him, that's for sure. I won't mention too many more. I like Chris Wagner, who's become available in a few leagues that I'm in. Wagner has been insane this year. Getting points, getting penalty minutes, winning face-offs, 103 hits already, maybe tops in the league, I'm not sure. Playing some power play, playing some shorthanded. If you're in a multi-category league, he does every category. So you need to have the guy like this. There's no reason he should be dropped. Even if he stopped getting points tomorrow, as long as he's still playing, he's going to get all those side stats. And he gets more side stats than almost anybody else in the NHL. You even look at his last game here, for example, on the 8th. No points. Oh, terrible. 4 penalty minutes. I play in leagues with penalty minutes. 3 shots, 5 face-off wins, 3 hits. Like, those are solid stats in those categories. So I think he's got a bit of value. Jasper Fast is another guy that I was looking at. He's on the Rick Nash line. He's got a better role, and he's playing better. He's not playing a lot of minutes, but he's definitely worth monitoring. He's a talented player, and the Rangers seem to be able to get good scoring from guys like this. So I kind of like him this week. I want to see how he does going forward, but I think he's one to monitor, and 1% owned is a little bit crazy to me. He's worth more than that. He's already close to eclipsing his career high in points, and I think he'll definitely do that soon. No power play, not a lot of power play usage, so that's something to note. If you're in a power play league, he might not be on your radar. Radek Fasta, I said Adam. It was him, actually, not Bennett, that got third star of the week. He's been consistent. You know, he had a 2-game span there, no points, but then he got another assist his last game, winning faceoffs, doing a little bit of everything. He's having a bit of a breakout year himself. 17 points, 10 goals. So, and he's not even getting power play time. So that says a lot for him that he's able to do that without getting power play time. I kind of like him. Let me see just if I have any more here down lower. I did notice Braden McNabb. He got signed to a nice contract, and there's good reason for that. He gets a solid role, and he is a bruiser on defense. He sets the tone on defense. So if you're looking for hits from a guy who might get points as well, like, he actually can get some points. He's got 5 this year, which is not great, but he's a solid plus. He seems like he's a solid NHL defender, I would say. So I like him to be about what he's doing this year, so far this year. So maybe he'll get 15 to 20 points and a lot of hits, a lot of blocks, some decent shots, and penalty minutes as well. So if you have penalty minutes in your league, I kind of like him. I think that's really. I'll take a look quickly at my deeper team, but I actually, from just thinking about it, I don't think there was much there. I don't think I even added anybody this week because there was so little. Scott Hartnell's on his way back. He's an interesting guy to just monitor. He's another guy, though, that if he's not hot, he's super cold. So you want to just monitor how he plays when he gets back. I'm going to keep mentioning this guy's name because in deeper leagues, I think he's worth monitoring. Mike Matheson. He's a talented defenseman for Florida who, through their system, has always been good, and he's played a consistent role this year, around 20 minutes a game. Not a lot of PP, like 0 PP. If he were getting power play time, he'd be an automatic ad, I would say. But he gets solid blocks, solid hits, and I do like him long term. He's got 7 points right now. He should break his career mark, probably get over 20 this year. And I just kind of have a feeling he's going to get going. He's played a solid role, and I think he's getting comfortable. Connor Murphy's been playing a lot more for the Blackhawks. He's a guy at the beginning of the year I was looking at because I knew his hit totals are insane. And he's kind of been doing it recently. He's been averaging about 2 a game, I would say. But he's actually scored a few points recently, which is interesting because that's not what you expect from him. And they've been playing him more. He's had 18 minutes and 19 minutes his last 2 games. So he's just one to monitor. He's a guy who can get you those side stats really well. And Chicago doesn't have too much right now. Like, they kind of need guys like this to step up. So it's crazy to say, but a guy like Connor Murphy is needed in Chicago, I would say, right now. I added Forsling. He had a 3-point game the other day. He's not a bad player. He's got a big role. So I like any defenseman who gets 22 to 25 minutes a game if they do those side stats. He gets some power play time. He gets shots. He got 5 shots his last game, and he definitely gets a few blocks. I've been actually searching out blocks in this league, so that's why I added him. So he's one to watch. I mean, I don't think he's that great, really. And this is a couple odd ones just at the end here. These are the last 2 guys I'll mention. Denny Malgin, or Dennis Malgin, I don't know how you say it, who came over from Russia, and he's been for a couple years ago. He came in, I think, last year and played really well. Like, looked like he might be a Marchessault kind of guy. Like, comes in and just becomes a scorer right away, because he had hype about his scoring and coming from Russia. He's tiny. I think he's like 5'8", something like that. But he's super skilled, like high skill level, which is why he's been able to even make it to the NHL at that size. So he's now, he had a good start last year, and then it seemed like the league caught up to him, and he did nothing. And he had to get dropped down to the AHL. He started the year in the AHL, has come up a couple times just to fill in. But this week he's been up, and he's scoring right away. He's got 4 goals in it since he's been called up. And they're playing him a decent amount. 17 minutes last game is solid usage for a guy who just got called up. He's not going to get any hits or blocks. So he's really just a shots on goal and points guy. But I like his talent level, and Florida seems to make something out of these guys like a Marchessault, like guys that were kind of scoring in the AHL, but maybe not the body type of the NHL player. They seem to make something happen with them. And they've also got 4 games this week. I added them. 0% owned, and I've added him. So I'm the only guy in the world that is using this guy. But I have him in my dynasty as well, and I just sit him in my backup minor role in my dynasty. But I've always liked him as a player. Guys that have that offensive, flashy skill, he's like a Martin St. Louis kind of body type and also skill type, like very good hands and fluid player. So you never know with guys like this. He might cool right off because the size might get to him again. He might get hurt. Who knows? But I like him this week, and I would consider adding him. The other guy in Edmonton, I think the last guy I'll talk about, is Jujar Khaira. I don't know how to say it properly. He's not a great scorer. Like I've looked through his career in minors and things like that, and he's never going to be. This is not going to be your 70-point scorer kind of player. This is more of a 30-point guy at best who grinds and is very valuable to his NHL team because of the way he grinds. Now, those grinding stats can be good for you in leagues that value hits and things like that. He also wins, he does faceoffs as well, but his percentage on faceoff doesn't look good. If he's playing 13 minutes and getting 1 faceoff win, it looks like he's not doing great with the faceoffs, which might be what holds him back from more minutes. But I kind of like him if you're in a hits league, a deep hits league, because he's got a bit of upside to score more like 40 points maybe. Not a lot of those hits guys are going to get 20 points. He's got the potential to maybe do a bit more. So I think he's worth looking at. He also gets blocks. And if you look at that, he's got 5 blocks in 5 games as a forward, which that gets disregarded by people, blocks from a forward. But if you're in a league that has blocks as a category, and most teams are just getting those stats basically from their defenseman, very rarely from an offensive player. Well, if you're getting even 5 in 5 games from a player, that's very valuable because that just adds on to your stat from a source that you wouldn't normally get it from. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I kind of like him in very deep formats. I think that's it. Make sure this week that you're checking, you're making your waiver moves early, not late. And I would get off of some of those 2-game players. I'm not sure if I take a quick look at players on which team now. Never mind that. I mean, you'll know with Arizona players, there's guys like, I don't know, Duclair, and I know guys who have OEL are kicking themselves right now because he's been so horrible. But I don't think you can really drop OEL. But guys like Duclair and Perlini and guys that are at the end of the roster, even maybe Nanti Ranta, you might want to just get rid of this week and not be having them in your roster. And that's what you've got to be focused on, I think, more than adding guys that are 4-game players. Deciding who you're dropping. Like, I have a guy like Vrana on a lot of my rosters, and he's been super cold, if you've been monitoring Vrana. And I definitely wanted to kind of drop him this week. I was thinking about dropping him, and I was about to do it. And then I realized, well, you know what? They play 4 games, though. So why would I drop him? If I'm going to drop him, I'm just missing out on a guy who's going to play a lot this week, probably going to do something this week because he's got more games. He's been pretty poor recently, but I would avoid dropping your 4-start guys and focus more on dropping 2-start priority and dropping 3-start guys after that. That's about it. I hope that helps a few people. I'm going to keep putting these up every week. As I said, it helps me, and if it helps a few people out there, let me know in the comments. Hit a like. Follow me. I pretty much will only put up videos for this right now, as well as I do another Hockey Talk podcast with a friend of mine, Mike Jensen, called the Hockey Outsiders podcast. And that's more talking real NHL hockey, not fantasy, but we have a little bit of fantasy in there. And if you're enjoying the content at all, just slap a like and follow my my notifications. And please comment. I'd love to get comments. I'll comment right back, and I'd love to have the debate over player value and stuff. So thanks a lot, and talk to you later.